fake Chris Broussard, joins us now. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Nick, it is my absolute pleasure to talk to you on this beautiful Friday morning, and to be real candid with you, I'm actually ecstatic that Matt Schick is not in studio, because to be real frank with you, I never really enjoyed answering his questions, because I had spoke to some different question askers, and they had told LeBron to tell me that Matt Schick had not done a good job with Danilo Gallinari, which obviously affects how I answer questions.
Sure. Chris Broussard is our guest. Interesting way to get things started there, Chris. You've been plugged in from the start with this Jeremy Lin situation. Your level of surprise that New York didn't match the offer for Lin?
Well, again, I told you before that I had been very plugged in with, in particular, Jeremy Lin's knees. I spoke to his ACL, who had spoke to his PCL, and by all accounts, according to Mikhail Prokhorov, things were doing fantastic in his knees. And that's what's surprising, because New York is one of those places, according to Spike Lee, he's big on knees. And I assume with James Dolan looking at his knee and Carmelo making his assumption on his knee, that I would have thought Jeremy Lin would have stayed in New York. But the issue is that the subway system in New York is not very good on your knees. I had spoke to LeBron, who had actually spoke to Tiger Woods, who had made a phone call to Charles Barkley, and I had actually sat and eavesdropped in that conversation with Charles Barkley, and he had told me that Jeremy Lin personally had spoke to Yao Ming about whether or not Houston was a good place to go do your thing and play basketball. Well, the interesting part about the whole Jeremy Lin New York Knicks fiasco, if you will, was basically how John Starks played into all this thing. I had spoke to Charles Oakley, who had to spoke to LeBron, who actually turned and spoke to Kobe Bryant to me personally, and told me that John Starks had told Jeremy Lin, and I quote, "Get the heck out of my town." Now, the interesting part about that is, why does John Starks have any say in this? I don't quite understand. But the thing you have to look at when it comes to Jeremy Lin and him not getting re-signed with the New York Knicks is really the subway system.
Interesting. And subways and John Starks playing a role in this whole situation. The fake Chris Broussard is our guest here on the Schick and Nick Show on 1620 Zone as we take a look at the NBA right now. Obviously, the Dwight Howard saga's a big part of the NBA world right now. What are you hearing about the Dwight Howard situation, Chris?
Well, it just won't end. You know, that's just one of those situations that I feel like every single time I lay down to take a nap, which I do very frequently, it seems to change. And I had spoke to Shaquille O'Neal, who had a very candid conversation, to be honest with you, with Tom Hanks. And Tom Hanks had actually been best friends with Dwight Howard for a period of time. And Tom Hanks had told me that the Dwight Howard situation was one of those things where you simply had to look at the state income tax and whether or not that was going to be a big factor in things. I don't understand whether or not that will be, because to be frank with you, I don't understand the economy, and I don't find that stuff very interesting, because I don't feel like there are a bunch of sources involved in the economy, so that's just not my sort of situation. But the Dwight Howard situation is this. He doesn't want to sign an extension right now. He really wanted to go with Mikhail Prokhorov, Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, and Chris Humphreys to Brooklyn. But that certainly didn't come to fruition, because Brook Lopez and his incredible hair, it's actually pretty similar to mine. I had spoke to Vidal Sassoon, who had spoke to his hair personally, and said that our hair was very similar. But that's neither here nor there. I apologize for going on that tangent, Nick. But Dwight Howard ultimately is probably going to stay in Orlando from all accounts that I've heard from, especially LeBron. It sounds like he's going to stay in Orlando and going to test the free agency waters when that comes about. But Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, and Pau Gasol have basically told him, hey, man, you want to come and join us, you're more than welcome. But at this point, Dwight Howard says he doesn't like the traffic situation in L.A., according to some of the people I talked to, in particular Justin Timberlake, who you know sits courtside at times at Staples Center. So the biggest thing you have to understand with Dwight Howard is whether or not he wants to get caught in traffic in Los Angeles.
Well, that makes no sense, Chris. But Chris Broussard is our guest here on the Schick and Nick Show on 1620 Zone. Which NBA rookie is making the most noise in Summer League out in Vegas there, Chris?
Well, I have spoke to Brad Pitt and George Clooney, who were actually in Las Vegas thinking about shooting another Ocean's 13 movie or something to that extent, and they had sat down and watched Jeremy Lamb play. Now, the interesting part about Jeremy Lamb is they had spoke to Jim Calhoun, who had spoke to me personally, and that's what's made me call LeBron. And then LeBron told me to call Ray Allen. And Ray Allen obviously played at Connecticut, so I had a very candid conversation with him, who had told me personally that Jeremy Lamb had spoke to LeBron about what to do off the pick and roll. Now, the interesting thing about what to do off the pick and roll is I spoke to John Stockton, who has spoke to Byron Russell, has spoke to Jeff Hornacek, who really spent his whole career watching the pick and roll. So he's one of the best sources I have to talk to when it comes to the pick and roll. And that's why Jeremy Lamb's been so successful, is because of Jeff Hornacek and his ability to relay what he has seen with the pick and roll in a roundabout way, got back to Jeremy Lamb. But it really came back to LeBron and what he has said.
Interesting. The fake Chris Broussard is our guest here in the Schick and Nick Show on 1620 The Zone as we talk about the NBA. Hey, Chris, so personally, though, you've had an interesting week. You've been filling in for Tony Kornheiser all week and doing pardon the interruption, PTI with Michael Wilbon. How has that been? What's that been like, Chris?
Yeah, it's been interesting. You know, Reali and Michael Wilbon, they've been very, very hospitable to me. And the interesting part about pardon the interruption is they actually told me that we could not have a certain 5 good minutes with my sources. And that really offended me, because I felt like as a journalist and as a guy that needs to relay information, I need to be able to cite my sources. I'm a bibliography kind of guy, and so I thought PTI was going to be a situation where Michael Wilbon was going to allow me to speak to LeBron for 5 good minutes, or speak to Danilo Gallinari for 5 good minutes, or Mikhail Prokhorov, and maybe even speak to Carmelo, because Carmelo had actually been on PTI for 5 good minutes, and he had told Tony Kornheiser to tell Michael Wilbon, who actually, in a roundabout way, told Reali, who had told me about a water cooler, that I needed to speak in the sources situations more often. But that obviously didn't come about, and PTI has been an excellent experience for me this week. Michael Wilbon has got a great bald head. If you don't know, now you know, because he puts makeup on his bald head. And I had spoke to CoverGirl, and CoverGirl had spoke to Maybelline, and they had said they had made an appearance on Michael Wilbon's head.
Really interesting. I didn't realize you would put makeup on your head, but he does got a good bald head. Fake Chris Broussard's our guest here on the Schick and Nick Show on 1620 Zone. Dark Knight Rises opened last night. You going to check it out? You excited for the new Batman movie there, Chris?
Oh, I'm very excited to check out the new Batman movie. You know, I had spoke to Superman, who had actually spoke to Spider-Man, who spoke to LeBron. And the weird thing is that LeBron and Bruce Wayne actually went to elementary school together in Ohio. Now, that allows me to have just an inside look at really what goes on in the Batcave. Now, the Batcave is an interesting place because Mikhail Prokhorov actually rents the summer home. He subleases it with Bruce Wayne in the summer months, where he can go spend some time with Alfred and all those guys. But I had spoke to LeBron, who had spoke to Batman personally, who said that Gotham City was really interested in picking up an NBA expansion team, but that whole Joker thing that happened about 4 years ago really hit the economy pretty hard. And at that point, when that bridge was going to blow up, they didn't really want to deal with. David Stern had told me personally and told LeBron that they didn't want to put a team there. But I'm very excited to see what this Batman movie will bring, mainly because Mikhail Prokhorov and LeBron said it was going to be pretty good.
Interesting. I didn't realize Mikhail Prokhorov subleases the Batcave. That's good inside information. Chris Broussard. Chris, really appreciate you taking some time. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Nick, you have a great day, and I appreciate you taking some time out and talking to me. And remember to talk to my sources, and you know who that is. It's LeBron.
That's right, Chris Broussard talking to LeBron. That's Chris Broussard for you. That's about 10 good minutes talking to NBA with the fake Chris Broussard. A lot of stuff he talked about there, and a lot of name dropping and citing of sources, and that's just kind of what you're going to get from Chris Broussard. So, yeah, appreciate the time there, Chris. Covered a lot. We got to take a break. Okay. Don't know how you transition from that. Oh, goodness gracious. We got to take a break. We got my man Dirk Chatlin from the Omaha World Herald. He's coming up next. We'll talk on a variety of things. Talk a little British Open, talk a little Huskers, talk a little Penn State, talk A little bit of Team USA maybe with my man Dirkalicious. And then we got Blair Kirkhoff from the Kansas City Star coming up at 9:45. Shane gives me the thumbs up. Blair will be ready to go as he went to SEC Media Days to talk predominantly a Missouri angle with him as they're making their maiden voyage into the SEC. Third hour, Jay Billis. Don't touch that dial. It's the Schick and Nick Show with Nick Bahe, 1620 Zone.